All right, I don't make promises often, but I promise you this next discussion is going to be fan-dibba-doozy-tastic. So please welcome our next speakers. We have Joe Ray. He's a journalist with Wired. That's a mating call. So at some point, some wild animal is going to come rush me. He's a Wired kitchen product reviewer, and he's going to be chatting with Lisa McManus, the tasting and testing editor for America's Test Kitchen, on what's a product reviewer looking for. Very important if you have a product that you want reviewed. Please welcome Joe and Lisa up to the stage.
Let's see. Ditch my purse here. There we go.
Hi everybody, thanks for coming. My name is Joe Ray. I write for Wired. I do kitchen product reviews. I'm also a freelance journalist and I'm an author. Lisa will introduce herself.
I'm Lisa McManus. My official title is Executive Tasting and Testings Editor at America's Test Kitchen, and we publish Cooks Illustrated and Cooks Country magazines, and we have the related PBS TV shows.
We're going to talk today about what we look for when we review a kitchen product. I review at home. She reviews in this lovely office that I'm often very jealous about. So maybe that's somewhere we could start. Why don't you say what your testing process is like?
Well, we test all kinds of kitchen food preparation products, anything from spatulas to frying pans. And we basically, let me just get my mic going here so everybody can hear me. So we always take a look at what's out there in the marketplace, and we try to see what we should be reviewing. We try to review the basics as well as new things that are coming out. So I've been covering some smart products. And we will basically buy everything we test. We buy multiples of it. We buy it at retail. I think one of the disadvantages of that is that we don't test anything that's still on Kickstarter or in development. We wait till it's out at retail so we're sure we get the same product that our readers and viewers will get. And then we write protocols for our testing that are just like a recipe for what tests we're going to do, and we carry them out step by step. What's going to constitute a good, fair, or poor rating on any of the qualities that we're looking for. We try to test very practically the way you would cook with or use that product in your home. And we also try to get at durability issues. How's it going to hold up? How easy is it to clean and take care of?
So how many, when you call stuff in, do you end up with 5, 10, 20 things? Or?
Depending on the lineup. I mean, if it's a one-off unicorn product, we'll do it by itself. If it's something like a frying pan, we will do, well, I'm about to do a story on frying pans, and I've just bought 28 frying pans. They're all arriving in my office right now. I had to put a big rolling bin in the mailroom so they could collect them for me. And, because I bought 2 of each of 14 different pans, and there's still some that I had to leave out, and it was painful to me. I always want to test everything and make sure I've really covered the field.
And what's that like initial winnowing like?
Well, I mean, what we try to winnow it out so we come up with a lineup that's a reasonable amount of things to test. Sometimes it's a price limit we'll set if it's something where we're looking at inexpensive fill in the blank. Sometimes it's certain features that we're looking for. For instance, it might be something where we want a fully clad skillet. We don't want something that's made out of something else that's
right.
Single metal. And then we basically buy, as I said, 2 of everything. We don't accept any product samples. If someone wants to send me a product sample, I send it back if it already gets to my office. And we have to buy it. So that's important to us. We don't have any advertisers, so there's no limits or restrictions on what we can cover. But that also means that we really try to give every single product a fair shake, and we try to make sure that we're very transparent. What did we test? What were we looking for? And what did we find? So
that's huge.
Yeah, it's a lot. It can take a couple of months to test a single product. Okay. And then we have, the endless internal oversight and fact checking, and, it takes forever. By the time something is actually published, I've forgotten I've done it.
Right.
But then, we will that will carry forward for the next few years. We also buy all the products that we test, so we use them in the kitchen. So even after I have chosen something, we buy it, we stock it in the kitchen, we take everything else out that was in that category before, and we all have to use it. And I have to put up with all of our test cooks saying, I don't like this as much as the old one or something. And, and I hear about it, and I will listen. And if something breaks, I have to figure out why.
Right.
So, but it gives us a little more long-term data. So we really live with these products before we publish a review.
That's great.
Yeah, it's great. How about you? What's your process?
So mine is very similar. Like you said, we don't do prototype products. Hey. We only do stuff that's come out to market. So I was just talking to somebody on the other in one of the other halls the other day or today, and I was like, all my questions are, when is this coming out? What, you know, give me a month, give me a date, and they're always super vague. But once it comes out, I try to get on it right away, and it's stuff I've been following for a while. It's stuff, unlike you guys bring a bunch of stuff in and kind of have a head-to-head where I kind of keep an eye on things and try to figure out, is this going to be something, is it a lodge pan? Are people going to just buy this because it exists, because that's fantastic? Or is it going to have a lot of hype around it? I just reviewed the Tasty One Top. They have billions of people who watch their Facebook. So I think it's important, if they're going to be selling a product, to know, what's this thing going to be like?
Yeah, to really find out
yeah.
what's the deal with this new thing that everybody's hearing about.
Right.
Yeah.
And then from there, they ship it to me. I ship it back when I'm done, and I try to integrate it into my own kitchen. My test kitchen is my house kitchen. I use it, my wife uses it. If my mom comes over, I try to get her to use it. I watch how I interact with the thing. I watch how the other people interact with the thing, because when people like she and I get together, it's like we just met 20 minutes ago, but it's like talking to a long lost cousin.
Yep.
And we would probably look at the thing in the same way. When I give it to my wife or my sister has like no tolerance for BS at all. She would like throw a pan out her back door if it started like going wonky on her. So I love watching other people interact. I also have a pretty good BS meter, for lack of a better word. It's just like, this is gonna work, this is not gonna work. And it's fun to kind of work with that and keep all those variables in my mind, and then really put it through its paces. Cook as much as I can with it, see how it works in the stuff that I own, see how it works as if I just bought it, and then I go from there. So.
We have a method where we have a solitary tester working on a specific product at any given time, but then we also have, everything we do is so collaborative. I have a team of 7 people in total doing testing and tasting right now. And we all call each other in and consult with each other, and we all read our protocols for testing and pick at them and say, why are you doing this test, defend it. You know, everything has to have a reason we're doing that. Right. And maybe this would be better, we share ideas. We also have we call it user testing, and we'll call people in from around the company. I was testing Santoku knives, which are known, a lot of people believe that they are good, friendly first knives for people who are cooking novices. So I said, I want some cooking novices, and I sent an all staff email. And I had people who said, I know which end of the knife to hold, and that's it. Okay. And I had them try all my knives and got their feedback, watched what they did, listened to what they said. And sometimes those two things are a little different. They'll be like struggling, and then they say, this is great. You're like, yeah, okay, let's talk a little more. You try to pull out the truth about something. But we don't want something that just suits me. We want something that suits more than one person, that suits most people. Okay. And so that's part of our testing as well. And can you tell us, is a Santoku a good first knife? Some people felt it was friendlier because the pointed tip is curved. It's got a kind of rounded front tip, and it's a little shorter. It tends to be 6.5, 7 instead of 8 inches. I think some people did feel that was good, but what's more important was how sharp it felt in the hand, how slim the edge was, and because if you're new at knives and you pick up a really good knife that cuts quickly and easily, it doesn't really matter if it has a pointy tip, because you feel you're in control and not the knife. Right. Ones that fought people. Cool. Yeah. What do you do when you have a thing you don't like? How do you deal with, I guess the larger question here is, how do you deal with a negative review? Yeah, you mean during the process of testing and you're saying, I'm not loving this thing? Sure. I try to be really fair. I mean, I try to really make sure it's not just me. I will call in other people. And that user testing really pays off, because sometimes I really zip it. I don't say what I think, and I don't try to lead the witness. And they say the same things I was thinking. And I'm like, okay, it was not just me. But I mean, I stand in for the home cook. I'm not a trained chef. I am a journalist by training, and so I will try to figure out what's wrong. You know, I might say this thing is the best pan, but why? Why is this a really good product, and why isn't it a good product? And a lot of times it's because I'm struggling with it, I'm fighting it, it's fighting me, it's not doing what I want. You know, you've tried some smart products, I know, if you've been testing this at all, that you spend the first 2.5 hours after you're all excited and unboxing it, fighting with getting it to go, get the app to go, get it to do something, and you know, calling tech support, that's always a bad sign. So.
And how do you deal with it when you write it up? Like when you actually go to put words on paper, because you don't want to be mean.
No, you don't want to be mean. You just want to be fair. And I'm thinking, you know, it's tough, especially if I have talked to the people or, you know, they're super nice. But I try to put that out of my mind and I say, I'm a home consumer. I just shelled out good money for this. And I've spent half of my lifespan with this thing, fighting it and wondering if it's off or on, or if I just turned it off from the car, or, you know, it's sending me weird messages that I don't know what to do with. Or, you know, every time I go near it, it's forgotten me and I have to reintroduce myself and link up to it again. It's just like, you know, that's bad. I mean, it should be intuitive, it should be easy, it shouldn't be cryptic. And those things really, I try to explain it from the point of view of the user who just wants it to solve a problem and not just create other problems. You know, that's a real big problem for me.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or if it breaks, or it's great, but then you can't clean it, you know.
Everything should be able to go in the dishwasher.
Or you should have simple parts without nooks and crannies that can trap food and grow bacteria, or be so fragile that you're cleaning it with kid gloves. I'm sorry, my life is kind of full of stuff, and I have to move fast. I have to use it and clean up. The point is eating, not playing with the gear. I mean, I think that's something that some smart products forget. I mean, it's fun, but is it practical? Is it something I'm going to turn to every day because it made my life easier? Or is it going to create its own issues? Is it going to make me wonder if I'm working it right? Those are things that I try to think of.
Gotcha. Okay, cool.
So, as your point of view, I mean, what do you do when you don't like it? Is that similar?
When I run into stuff that I see as problematic, I start picking up the phone and calling people who know more than I do.
Yeah.
So I call scientists, I call knife specialists, I call people who have gadgets that I don't have, and sometimes I'll send it to them and be like, please tell me what you think about this, because it doesn't pass your sniff test, as they say, and you'll notice something is just a little bit weird or a little off, and you're just like, how can this be so cheap? Not cheap in the like flimsy sense, but just inexpensive. And so I go out, I start looking for experts, and I start quoting them. I have a lot more space, I think, in general, to talk about one thing than you guys tend to.
Yes.
And if it's something that might be dangerous, if it's something that might be just really out and out horrible, the more I can do to like actually have someone else say that, who knows more than I do about a very specific thing, I think that makes the review better, and it also keeps me from getting in trouble.
Yeah, I also think it's kind of fun to pick on things, and you can be funny and stuff, but people's careers are at stake. You don't want to be wrong.
Yeah.
You want to be right. If you really think something's wrong, I used to be a newspaper editor, a food editor, and I had restaurant reviewers working for me. If they didn't like a restaurant, I made them go out more and more, because it was like, and I'm like, document everything. You know, if it took you 40 minutes till someone came and took your order, you know, write it down, because you don't want to just throw people, you know, work away. You want to really say, this is specifically what is going on here. And calling in experts so you're really clear on that it's wrong and you're not just making a mistake. That's really important. You just want to be right. And I mean, in terms of correct that this is not what it should be. You know, it's not about my ego. It's about telling people whether or not this product really works for them, or it's going to be more trouble and not worth the money.
What, if anything, have you introduced into your home kitchen that's smart?
Oh boy, in my home kitchen, Not yet.
All right, what's your favorite thing at the test kitchen then?
Well, I do really like one thing, but we haven't published it yet, so I can't say.
All right.
That's another thing. We don't work with manufacturers, and we don't share results until the thing is published. So, you know, basically, it's like, you know, hands are tied. But that's sort of so that, you know, we can't be influenced, and we're not giving anybody a heads up about something. Often that means that when we like a product, it gets sold out for a couple months, but
Right.
that happens. We're willing to put up with that in order to really have our stuff be kind of like, you know, not mixed up with any
Sure,
influences.
that makes a lot of sense.
So yeah, there's one smart product that I've fallen in love with, and I
can't say what it is.
I was like, please, can I say? I'm like, no, I
That's
can't.
okay. Cool.
But there's a few things I like. You know, what about you? Is there anything that you really have loved?
I just reviewed ThermoWorks. They came out with it's called a Wi-Fi gateway, and so they have their smoke thermometer, which is a 2-probe thermometer, which is a great thermometer, but there's similar stuff out there on the market, and there's not, and it's also been out there for a couple of years, and I try to do stuff that's pretty new. They came out more recently with a thing called a smoke gateway, which it's a little clunky, but it talks to the thermometer, and then it talks to your phone, and it creates a time temperature chart that you can watch what's happening in what you're cooking. And it wouldn't be such a big deal, but I found I could use it not only for my grill, but I can test out my home oven. I can see what's happening. When you go, for instance, like when you go to your grill and you're looking at something that's on there and you go check on it every 5 or 10 minutes, you're getting data points and they're sinking in a little bit. But at the same time, seeing something, I had one piece of food it's called the stall. It's a brisket, and it just stopped cooking. And this is a famous barbecue happening. And if you see that the piece of whatever you're cooking just kind of stops cooking and it's plateaued, you are going to take action. Where it took me probably a half hour to figure out, like, oh, this is what this thing is, this is what's happening. Now I have to I'm just going to jack up the heat and hope it gets better, kind of thing. If you can see that that's happening, it's super.
Yeah.
It tells me how my oven works. I brought it to my mother-in-law's. It told me how her oven worked. I brought it to a friend's. I saw how her oven worked. Like, my oven works fine. Not all of the other people's oven works fine. And if you know that you need to turn up or down your oven by 20 degrees, that's a big deal.
Good information.
My Cook's Illustrated recipes would go down the tubes if it didn't work right. So there's stuff like that. That's been a definite favorite recently.
Is there something that you wish smart product manufacturers knew or tried or didn't do or did do that would be different from what, you know, is there some advice you would give to have the product get a more favorable review?
Sure. Having bulletproof content, which in our industry is usually recipes, having those tested, having somebody who knows what they're doing test those once. If you get them from an outside source, somebody in your house has to check those and make sure they're fantastic, because drop is on the line, lodge is on the line, everything that you guys have, it's super important. If somebody has a recipe that doesn't work on your app or on your pan, you're out of luck.
Do you mean the recipes that are provided with the product, or if someone takes a recipe from somewhere else and can't use it on that product?
We run into a bit of both now. There are some apps that are just standalone apps that help you figure out how to cook.
Right.
And then there's hardware that also, like Heston has apps, and they have their Chef Philip who comes on and cooks and like shows you how to chop an onion and all that stuff in there.
Yeah.
So it really depends.
I think, you know, I always wish there was more user testing for some of these products, like not someone's mother who's going to say, it's lovely, dear, but like someone, you know, go out and watch regular people who have never seen your product before try to use it, and you'll catch so much more before it gets out on the market. Sometimes I really don't feel that that's been 100% done. It feels like people are trying to get stuff out and maybe fix some bugs later, or we'll add to this later. And it's the later part, you know, should be a little bit earlier.
Later part should be now, usually.
Yeah, if it's out there and people are starting to use it and the word gets out that it's frustrating or kind of limited,
right,
that's not so great.
Yeah.
And even with the promise that it's going to get better, I mean, that's the nice thing about smart products. It's just like, you know, you can get updates on your software, and it can learn and grow and change, and it's not the product you.
It can get better.
Yeah, it can
That's
get better,
super exciting.
which is super cool. And wish everything got that way, but yeah, like counting on that a little too much, you know, releasing before you're ready is a problem I've sort of run into recently. I'm currently locked in a battle with a smart product back at the test kitchen, and it sent me some message this morning about something that was wrong that I can't fix from here, really.
Right, and I don't want to
and
know
I'm
about it
worried
from here
about
either.
And I'm not going to get back till, you know, a couple of days, and now I'm like, oh no, you know, this thing I was doing is going to go wrong, and I'm trapped. Okay. So it's a little frustrating, and I also think it's not real. So I think the message is actually, I got other error messages that were then taken back. Oh, that was a software thing we did, and you got an error message, please ignore that. And it's like, no, thank you. I'm glad they sent that message, but it's like, you're not ready for prime time yet. Just get it organized.
Hammer it out first.
Yeah.
So they just flashed the card for us that says we have a couple minutes left. Do you guys have any questions you want to ask? Or we can just run away, it's fine.
Reviewing, we're good.
Mike Wolf.
Yeah.
A lot of products are coming with things like subscription services now, like meal kits, stuff. So the job of a product reviewer becomes harder as like things are piling on, like subscriptions and stuff like that. Do you guys consider that or review those types of products?
Can you repeat his question?
Yeah, well, the question was, some products now come with subscription services, meal kits, you know, other things that are part of the product or can be added onto the product. And does that make our life more difficult as reviewers? Yeah, a little bit, but we try to check that out from our point of view. We'll try to see, you know, what can you do with this thing? What are its limitations? What are its possibilities? What if I go off script? What if I do what this thing, you know, like if they have a recipe subscription, I will try a lot of the recipes and see if it's good. I will think about whether that's really expensive for someone after they paid a lot for a piece of gear.
Right.
You know, I factor it in.
Okay. To me, it sounds like another thing to review.
Yeah.
Or if you review something 1 year and then 5 years later you come back, or I mean, in the Smart Kitchen, it's 2 years later you come back and check and see how it is. But one thing that came up that I was thinking of when you were asking your question is, as long as the baseline product is super solid, like I don't have to buy a piece of steak from Amazon and Whole Foods, even though it's an option. Like I live half a block from a grocery store, but it doesn't bother me that it's there. So
yeah, I kind of like it when something can be smart, but then also can be operated the regular way. I like the Be More Smart coffee maker because you can geek out on the app all you want, or you can just walk up and push the button on the front and make your coffee. I mean, some of the smart stuff, unless you have your phone, I can pick, you know, I'm there in my, my bathrobe in the morning and my eyes are half open. I do not want to have to start messing with an app for 20 minutes. I want to be able to just program it in my favorite thing and go.
Failed coffee in the morning is
just
a fail.
Not good.
I think we're out of time. Thanks everybody for coming, checking in. Thanks to our hosts, and we're done. Thank you.
Awesome.